you.
Well, hello there, Gary, Roger, Midwest Night Watchers, Denise, Leona King. Well, Crystal is in the house with Brian Barber. Hello, Standing Stones, Penny Van. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you. We got Backwoods Cryptids in the house. Yes, welcome, everybody. It's going to be an interesting show. So this edition is brought to you by, yes, you name it, we have it in stock. It is Texas Beard Company. We are now shipping at. If you got a guy with the beard and want to make him smell good, make sure check it out in our store. I actually got the link in our YouTube channel and also down in our comment section. Mr. Decker, how are you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Doing all right tonight. It's been a long week, a lot of stuff going on, but I am good. I am ready to roll tonight. We're gonna have a great time tonight.
And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, I still got Sasquatch in the store. I only got 7 left. They actually went a little bit faster than I expected. So I got the link. I'll drop it back down in the comments once again for the show. But 7 left. And if you want one, grab it while they're hot. Grab them while they're hot. I didn't say drop it like it's hot. Welcome. It's just me, Adam. Welcome to the show, Lulu. Nice to have you. Round of applause, everybody. Moon at noon just walked in the door. Hello, Moon. Nice to have you there. So what are we going to talk about tonight, kind sir?
Well, we've been having kind of an ongoing series of discussions about the kind of the science behind cryptids and what it is and different terms. And tonight what we're going to talk about is, have there any cryptids have actually ever been found? So we have cryptozoologists out there that are searching for mysterious animals. We talked about thylacine last week, and big stuff going on kind of in the thylacine world that needs to be kind of looked at and seen what's going on. But is it all for naught? Or are animals that we could classify as cryptids, have they've actually ever been found? And it's kind of a, I don't want to say delicate, but it's an interesting question because it kind of depends on how you look at it. And I think that's a big thing, is the definitions of what we're talking about. And understanding that the term cryptozoology and cryptid only came about in the 50s.
That is correct.
And so, like, what about previous to that? What's all going on? So tonight, what we're going to really be looking at is going to be, have cryptids ever been found? And the short answer to that is yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's where we're going to get into tonight. I got a list of animals. It's a small list. Only about 8 of them. Some we've already talked about, so I'm only going to touch on them briefly. But just the idea of is what we do and like just beating our heads against the bushes, or is it going to be a real thing? So what we have to talk about before we discuss have they ever been found is definitions. What is a cryptid? What is cryptozoology in the first place, right? Cryptozoology is as it was originally coined, is the study of hidden or unknown animals. That's it. Anything else added to that is something added on later as kind of an evolving definition. But as it was coined, cryptozoology is the study of hidden or unknown animals. So what is a cryptid? A cryptid is anything that is a subject of the study of cryptozoology. It's that simple. Now, here's an important thing to understand. The part of the word is zoology, which is a form of biology, right? So that means an animal. It's a biological entity. It's a biological animal. The moment we start bringing cryptids out of the biological realm of study, it is no longer the study of cryptozoology. It becomes paranormal. And then it can no longer be defined as a cryptid. That's why a lot of your staunch cryptozoologists like really shy away from any of the metaphysical or paranormal aspects of studying things like Bigfoot, because then it's no longer cryptozoology. That doesn't mean that those attributes aren't there and aren't being reported. It's just that really takes it out of the realm of what they're studying. Okay, another definition would be a creature that is found in stories and that some people believe exist or say they have seen, but has never been proven to exist. Okay, so, and by stories, I mean legend, folklore, myth, historical accounts, things like that. That's what we're talking about. And then 3, a creature whose reported existence is unproved. So, last week we talked about the thylacine. I had a guy on Facebook today arguing with me that thylacine was not a cryptid. It shouldn't be classified in the same category as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness monster, because we know they used to exist. So it's not the same thing. And so I tried to enlighten this person on the actual definitions of what we study under cryptozoology. And what is that saying to say? Wisdom has always chased him, but he's always been faster.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of what we're going to be going by as our definitions. And these encompass the original ideas of what the founders of cryptozoology was talking about, and kind of what we look for when we're talking about cryptids. Now, before we had cryptozoology and cryptozoologists, we had people that were called naturalists, right? And a naturalist basically did the same thing, except their focus was going into an area and finding anything and everything. They just wanted to go into an area and catalog everything that was there, right? But it was the same kind of thing. They would find, stories. The locals would say, hey, we know of this animal and it's out here and it does this. And they would go and try and find him, which is exactly what a cryptozoologist does. So previously, when I hear the word naturalist, I think of, oh, okay, so he also was a kind of a cryptozoologist. Okay, so, and what do we mean by have any cryptids been found? So for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to look at 3 specific items: local and indigenous tales, stories, folklore, mythos. Basically, the people in the region are saying, hey, something's there. The scientists of the day didn't believe they existed. There's no way, that's ridiculous. They're making stories up. They're just uneducated. All the stuff that we hear today that people will say things about, any of the stuff that we look into. But then further research shows that they do exist in a biological form, even if it's different from the local legend. And I put that in there, right? Because we know, like Native American lore, for example, there is a lot of mysticism, and there's a blending of spirit world and natural world and all this kind of stuff. The Aborigines down in Australia, the same thing. Everything also has a counterpoint in the dream world, right? So even if the animal didn't show the mystical, magical abilities that the locals have given it, an actual correlating biological form was found. Okay, so those are kind of the main areas I was looking at to point out when we started going through this. Okay. So what we're looking at here is my list of examples. Some of these you may know, some of these you may not. Some are pretty familiar. We have the giant squid, the Hokiem turtle, the platypus, the Komodo dragon, the okapi, one of my favorites, the bondagezu, which I had no really much of an inkling of until I went through this, the gorilla, and the billy ape. So I wanted to get something from different categories. There's so many more out there, guys. But I thought this was a fair representative of different species, different types, different land masses. So we can kind of focus on things all over the place. We all know about the giant squid, right? Architeuthis. Here's a bunch of stats on it. Basically, it can grow to tremendous size. We know that. We have estimates. We don't know how large they can actually get. Recent estimates go up to 43 feet. Some people say 60 feet. Some people say bigger and longer. They don't really know because it's still such an unknown specimen. They do have reports of finding tentacles and stretched out to be 60 feet long. Okay, if you see there at the bottom, claims of specimens measuring 6 feet long have not been scientifically verified. And what the scientists say is because they're very elasticy, they can be stretched beyond their actual living length, that those measurements are incorrect. So they're just going, not too big, can't happen. Aristotle, who lived in the 4th century BC, described a large squid, which he called Teuthus. So we're talking all the way back 4th century BC, guys, that people were already talking about giant squid. And he differentiated it from other squids, and he actually named them a little different. Pliny the Elder, living in the 1st century AD, also described the gigantic squid in his natural history, with a head as big as a cask, right? Tales of the giant squid were common among mariners since ancient times, may have led to the Norse legend of the Kraken and tentacled sea monsters as large as an island capable of engulfing sinking ships, right? So those reports of these have gone back all the way from the beginning. I'm not going to say this guy's name, but a Steenstrup, the describer of the Architeuthis, suggested a giant squid was the species described as the sea monk from the Danish king. We talked about his book at one point earlier when we talked about mermaids. Steenstrup wrote a number of papers on the giant squid in the 1850s. So he was the first one to scientifically actually go through and describe scientifically, which is what is called when you discover an animal. It's describing it scientifically in 1857. Okay, and then we go on to talk about different pieces that were found and all that kind of fun stuff. But here's where I thought was interesting. They talked about in the 4th century BC. It was officially described in 1850. The first image of a live, mature giant squid was taken in 2002. So we have all that time that scientifically was described, but nobody could get a picture of it. Nobody could photograph it until 2002. Off of a beach in Japan. The animal measured about 6 feet in mantle length, 13 feet in total. It was found near the water surface. It was captured and tied up to a quay where it died overnight. The specimen was identified by the University of Fisheries as a legitimate Architeuthis. And then the first images of the animal in its natural habitat were taken in 2004. So we're talking hundreds and hundreds of years of us knowing what this was before anybody got a picture of it. So when anybody tells you that a photograph is proof of existence, you can cite this at them. That's not the case whatsoever. So here's a couple of guys laying next to a washed up Architeuthis laying on the shore. Look at the size of that. And then it mentioned the Japanese caught the first live photographs. There we go. It's a really cool video if you watch it. It's kind of fun to check out, but that is a live Architeuthis in the wild. And I've mentioned before, I remember the first time I saw a carcass, Moat Marine Aquarium off Sarasota, Florida. I was a teenager, and it literally brought tears to my eyes because it was one of those things like, see, I knew they were really out there. Next is Megalodon, guys. All right, so next up, the golden turtle. Grizzly, have you ever heard of the golden turtle?
Yes, I have.
All right. See, I love this. I can never pull one over on you. The stories of the Hoan Kim turtle, the golden turtle, began in the 15th century in Vietnam, where it was a legend. The emperor of Vietnam and founder of the Lee dynasty, according to the legend, he had a sword named Heaven's Will given to him by the golden turtle god. One day, not long after the war, the Chinese had accepted Vietnam's independence. He was out boating on the lake. Suddenly, the golden turtle god surfaced, prompting him to return the sword and thank the turtle for help. The turtle took the sword, disappeared into the lake, and then it was renamed the Lake of the Returned Sword. So this goes back to their legend, to their founding stories where they got independence. There's a picture of them. That is the golden turtle, guys. Real animal. On June 2nd, 1967, a Hokiman turtle died from injuries caused by an abusive fisherman. He was ordered to net the turtle and carry it, but instead he hit the turtle with a crowbar. The turtle's body was preserved and placed on display in the temple. That particular specimen weighed 440 pounds or 200 kilograms and measured 1.9 meters or 6 feet 3 inches. Until that time, no one was sure if the species had still lived. So they knew about it back then, and then it came back, and in 1967 it was rediscovered.
Cat's asking you, what is the main attribute that makes them a cryptid?
Okay, well, you can go back and look at that real quick. me see. I can buzz up here what we were talking about definitions. So basically, a cryptid is any animal that is a study of cryptozoology, a creature that is found in stories that some people believe exist or say they have seen them but have never been proven to exist, and a creature who has been reported to exist but is unproven to exist. And for what we're talking about, I kind of narrowed it down for these three specific items. Local tales and myths. Scientists didn't believe they existed, or further research shows that they did in fact exist. So if you have a question about one of the specific animals I'm talking about, let me know, and I can tell you why I kind of pegged that critter as one of these cryptids that was discovered. In March, so here's the 67 where they discovered the species was still existing. In March of 98, so we have about a 30-year span. An amateur cameraman caught the creature on video, conclusively proving that it still survived. Prior to its recent discovery, the turtles thought were to be only legend and were classified as cryptozoological. So once again, they say it's there, but we don't know if it's still there. It's a legend. A lot of people didn't believe the golden turtle ever existed in the first place. It was all a hoax. But in spring of 2011, there was concern that the specimens, there's more frequent sightings. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was actually kind of a big news thing where people kept spotting these golden turtles that weren't supposed to be there. They were seeing one apparently had lesions on its body, so they wanted to catch it to study it and for medical treatment. Spring of 11, they started doing that. In February, a local turtle farm operator was chosen to prepare a net for it. On the first attempt in March, it failed. The turtle made a hole in the net, and the expert commented, "It's hard to catch a very large soft-tailed turtle." So they knew the turtle was there. They had turtle experts coming in to catch them, and this critter still kept eluding them. On March 31st, in an unusual act, the turtle went to shore to bask in the sun. I remember seeing pictures of that. I couldn't find any. Finally, on April 3rd, the giant turtle was actually netted and involved members of the Vietnamese military. They had to bring in the military to catch these guys. The giant turtle was netted. Captured creature was put into an enclosure constructed on the island to study. According to the scientists, they discovered it was female. In 2000, they officially gave it a scientific name. There was some question that these specific turtles may have been another species, like from the Chinese River and all these other things. But then they discovered that no, this is actually a distinct species only found in this one lake. Some witnesses believe that there are at least 2 or 3 other turtles living in the lake, and the smaller one appears more regularly, but they reject those reports. The last known turtle was found dead in 2016, and that's this guy right here. So potentially extinct now, but there are still reports of some of them showing up in this lake. So again, another creature of legend of lore. Some swore it existed. The officials were saying, nope, not possible. It's not there until they found him again. And then even once they found him, they said, nope, now he's gone. And then they found some more. And this is literally a lake. Look at this, guys. If you look in the background there, right in the middle of a big city in Vietnam. We're not talking out in the middle of nowhere. The platypus. Love the platypus, guys. These things are so amazing. Sometimes referred to as the duck-billed platypus, semi-aquatic egg-laying mammal endemic to Eastern Australia, including Tasmania. The sole living representative of its taxon. It is related to the echidnas. Together with the 4 species of echidna, it is one of 5 monotremes, which means a mammal that lays eggs instead of giving birth to live young. They sense their prey through electrolocation. So it's not like dolphins where they ping out. It's literally they feel the electronic vibrations and stuff of the animals. The male platypus has a spur on the hind foot that is venomous. It is actually one of the very few species of venomous mammals. I think one of 3 or one of 4. And of course, platypus are adorable. I think they'd be a great pet.
Ah.
They're fun. Heck yeah. Come on, dude.
Mhm.
The usual appearance of the egg-laying, duck-billed, beaver-tailed, otter-footed mammal first baffled European naturalists, there's that word, in 1799. The first scientist to examine a preserved platypus body judged it to be a fake made of several animals sewn together. So somebody in Australia caught a platypus and they actually taxidermied it, preserved it, sent it back to the scientists, said, look, here's a body. This is what it is. And they're like, nah, there's no way. This is too crazy. It's got to be fake. Until they discovered it wasn't. The unique features of the platypus make it important in the study of biology, evolutionary biology, and it's recognizable and iconic symbol of Australia. Culturally significant to the Aboriginal peoples. They used the hunter for food. It was part of their dream world, you know, their beliefs and all that. Absolutely amazing. But a platypus, again, is one of those things. It was there. The people knew about it. It was part of their legend and lore. Scientists were showing it. They didn't believe it until they could actually get a hold of a live one. And then all of a sudden, hey, we were wrong. This thing actually is there. And, you know, everybody's fallen in love with Perry the platypus. And if you haven't, you need to figure it out. What was that Kath said? Kath, I have swum with the platypus. I am jealous. That is my bucket list item. Preferably the females, so I don't get jabbed and envenomated by a male, because that would suck severely. Komodo dragon. We spent a lot of time a couple of weeks ago talking about the Komodo dragon, so I'm not going to go into huge detail. First documented by Europeans in 1910 after rumors of the land crocodile reached a Dutch colonial administrator. Widespread notoriety came after 1912 when they published a paper on the topic. Again, the scientific description is when an animal is considered discovered scientifically. After receiving a photo and a skin from the lieutenant, as well as 2 other specimens from a collector. You know, we talked about how there were legends and lore of these giant animals. They didn't believe them. Sailors would drive by, boat by these islands and have reports of these giant man-eating lizards, and nobody believed them until they found them. Poisonous slobber. Yeah, actually, Scott's Life is referring to poisonous slobber from the Komodo dragons. That is what they used to believe. Now it has been concluded that is actually venom. There are venom glands that they have found in Komodo dragons and a couple other of the parenti lizards that is actually venomous. The okapi. Okapis are cool. Do you know what an okapi is, Grizzly?
No, sir.
Oh, got one. All right. The okapi, known as the forest giraffe, the Congolese giraffe, and the zebra giraffe. It's an artiodactyl mammal that is endemic to the Northeast Democratic Republic of the Congo and Central Africa. Basically, it has like split hooves, but it only really rests its body weight on toes 2 and 4. So that's where the artiodactyl comes from. It's the only species in its genus. It has striped markings like a zebra. It is actually mostly closely related to the giraffe. And the okapi and the giraffe are the only living members of the family Giraffidae. There he is. Okapis are the coolest looking critters. Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha has okapi. I think there's 2 of them there. And again, the first time I went and saw an okapi, I sat there and probably watched him for about 10 minutes. Standing stones. Justin, do you know if the platypus has a pouch too? You know, I have never heard of them described as a marsupial. I've never heard of that. Monotreme, yes. Marsupials, I don't think so. I might have to have Grizzly Google that real quick, but I'm pretty sure they're not. We do have marsupial on the list, though, so hang on for that one. So there is the beautiful okapi. Absolutely stunning animal. Although it was unknown to the Western world until the 20th century, it may have been depicted since the early 5th century BC on the facade of something in Persepolis, a gift from the Ethiopian procession to the kingdom there. So for years, Europeans in Africa had heard of an animal they came to call the African unicorn. So again, we're talking about an animal that has been known by the locals, was traded, was sent to other countries, or at least pictures of it, or skins of it, right? It was a known animal, but we didn't believe it. We didn't believe it. For years, they heard about the African unicorn. The animal was brought to prominent European attention by the speculation on its existence found in press reports covering Henry Morton Stanley's journeys in 1887. In his travelogue of exploring the Congo, he mentioned a kind of donkey that the natives called the Ati, which scholars later identified as the Okapi. When the British Special Commissioner in Uganda, Sir Henry Johnson, discovered some pygmy inhabitants of the Congo being abducted by a showman for exhibition, he rescued them and promised to return them to their homes. They fed his curiosity about the animal mentioned in the Stanley's book as kind of a thank you. They told him the stories and stuff, and it says he was puzzled by the tracks the natives showed him, and while he expected to be on the trail of a forest-dwelling horse, the tracks were of a cloven-hoofed beast. So they were still expecting some kind of a donkey. Although he did not see one for himself, he managed to obtain pieces of the skin and eventually a skull. From the skull, it was correctly classified as relative of a giraffe. In 1901, the species was formally recognized. It is sometimes referred to as a living fossil, which we covered in a previous show, because it has existed as a species for a long time period and hasn't really changed. So again, we have a history going back. The locals knew about it. They talked about it. Modern science was like, nah, that just sounds ridiculous. Not there. And then there it is. They finally found it. Here goes some more. This is some modern day stuff about them, right? So this is what I found was really interesting. So 1800s, they knew about them. 1901, they were first recognized. September 11th, 2008, Congo's endangered okapi was basically the first time they found it or they got it on film. I'm going to put my glasses on for some reason that type is coming up really small and I can't read it. All right. It was so shy it had not been seen for over 50 years by the conservationists. It was actually photographed in the wild for the first time. They were discovered in 1908 is what he was saying, even though it was recognized in 1901. But there was no evidence of them after 1956. Emmanuel, the head of the park where the photos were taken, was basically telling them, told Reuters. So basically, they hadn't seen one in over 50 years. And then they got some great pictures of them in the wild. The photos were taken by remote camera traps, and they believe they have identified 3 separate individuals. And a note, again, it was first recognized in 1901, and the first photograph in the wild was 2008. Exactly the same thing that we keep seeing happen. Like, look at the thylacine we just talked about. Same kind of thing. It went extinct. Nobody's ever seen it. We haven't seen it in 50 years, but now people are starting to have reports, right? So the okapi is one of those found cryptids. We now know they're there, and we actually have them. All right. The Bondigezu. This one was interesting, and I kind of stressed some extra points here because I wanted to get your guys' idea of the description that people are saying, and then we will take a look at what they really look like. All right. So his name means the man of the forest, also known as the Dingisu. He was a legendary ancestral spirit of the Maori people in western Papua New Guinea. Described as a tree-dwelling creature, he resembles here's what I want you to look at, a small man covered in black and white fur. It was also said to have a white belly and a black head, back, and limbs. It is said to be a tree climber, but often stands on the ground in a bipedal stance. So what image does that give you guys? To me, it sounds like a primate. It sounds like, wow, this sounds like it might be one of the Bigfoot creatures, right? The orang pendek or something like that. It was formally described to science in 1995 by Australian Museum zoologist Tim Flannery, Indonesian zoologist, and an Australian anthropologist. His team gave the species the name Mbaso, which means the forbidden animal, in Maori because of the local belief that it is the spirit of their ancestors. It's also called the Bakaga. There he is, guys. Does that look like a mini Bigfoot? There he is. Right, to me, I would not look at this and go, well, heck, that resembles a person. That resembles a small man. It is actually a type of tree kangaroo. It is a marsupial. Yeah, it does look a lot like a koala. I'm just Mr. Adam. Absolutely. That's what it looks like. Very much so. Local people knew about them. They were there. They were part of their ancestral history, but it wasn't described into the 90s. They're endangered long-tailed marsupial found only in a very, very small area up in the mountains of New Guinea. They're normally native to Australia. The tree kangaroos, New Guinea is part of the same island chain, carries its young in its pouch. Though they are sacred, it is still threatened by hunting and habitat loss. The species was first filmed for an episode of the BBC documentary in 2009 after 11 days of searching with local tribesmen. So discovered in 1995. First time it was ever filmed was 2009. They were probably all eaten. Hey, potentially. I mean, food source, when you live in the jungle, you eat what moves. That's kind of how it goes. All right, so this one, Mystery Beast. Let's see if you guys can guess what this one is just by the history of it, okay? And let's see what this also sounds like, maybe something we're looking for nowadays. For centuries, tales of a large ape man in East Africa have captivated explorers and natives alike. Numerous tribes have legends of massive, hairy creatures that would kidnap and eat humans, overpowering them with their ferocity and strength. The creatures go by many names, among them the Nagila, the Nagagi, and Ngeene. In the 16th century, English explorer Andrew Battelle spoke of man-like apes that would visit his campfire at night. Nile explorer John Henning Speke recorded stories of vicious, hairy mountain ogres who squeeze women to death. In the 1860s, in the same year as explorer Duchala wrote of violent, bloodthirsty forest monsters. There's your giant, bloodthirsty forest monster, guys. Up until the 20th century, many of the tales were ignored or discounted. In 1902, German officer Captain Robert von Behrens shot one of these man-apes in Rwanda. Bringing it back to Europe, he introduced the world to a new species of ape called the mountain gorilla. And I had to pick the cutest little fuzziest baby picture I could find for this giant, ferocious man beast. Right? So look at those descriptions, guys. And then look what we actually found. And again, the stories were there. The late natives knew about them. The early explorers knew about them. Scientists didn't believe them. There's no way. It's not possible. Now, did they turn out to be these giant, ferocious, man-eating creatures? No, of course not. We know that they're actually more gentle giants. That's just what they are. Are they potentially dangerous? Absolutely. Absolutely. But as a whole, they're not. They want to be left alone. One of my favorite ones, the Beely ape. I like the ones that I can follow the journey with. And the Beely ape or the Bondo ape is one of those. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. This was a fun story to follow as it went through. Often described as a large bipedal primate, the Bondo ape or the Beely ape is said to resemble a cross between a gorilla and a human. Now, what does that sound like? This has led to speculation about its connections to the cryptids like Bigfoot or the Yeti. The Bondo basically references the region in the Congo where it is, and Billy is a smaller, more specific region within that. Okay. It's a region known for its dense, unexplored forest. Beely apes had a formidable reputation as lion killers. a title that contributed to their mystique. The reputation largely stems from local folklore and anecdotal reports suggesting that these apes had the strength and ferocity to confront and kill lions. Such accounts have painted the Beely apes as an exceptionally formidable and aggressive compared to their primate counterparts. So basically what they're saying is like, yeah, guys, this is kind of like a chimp or an ape, but this thing is different. This thing is crazy. It's angry. It likes to kill things. It's exceptionally big. It's strong. And there's actually some very interesting scientific stuff they found out about the Beely ape. In 1996, Carl Amann, a Swiss photographer and conservationist, I don't know if conservationist qualifies as a scientist or not. I'm not going to degrade his name, but just for the people out there, I don't know if technically that was or not. He became intrigued by the possibility of uncovering a new ape species after coming across unique skulls in a Belgian museum. So skulls were already collected. They hadn't been classified. And this guy had come across them and said, hey, wait a minute, these don't look quite right. And so they found out where they were collected. It led them to the remote northern Congo, where we heard tales of the Bondo ape from the local hunters. They spoke of tree beaters, like tree knockers, and lion killers, giant formidable apes. Soon after, he found another peculiar skull that combined features of both chimpanzees and gorillas. So morphologically, as they're examining these skulls, they're finding that it's not just a normal ape skull. There's something very unique about this. On top of this, he encountered exceptionally large, Brian Barber, exceptionally large fecal matter and footprints that rivaled or surpassed those of gorillas in size. It doesn't say it, but I can almost bet you that he probably stored it in a sweet and low box in his girlfriend's fridge. I'm just guessing there. It's a good possibility. So they're saying that, look, these guys are morphologically different. They're a combination of like chimp and gorilla. The thing is huge. Its footprints and its scat is bigger than the gorillas are leaving. This thing has to be something totally unique to science. So here we go. There's the skulls he's looking at. And here's one that they had captured. Okay, so there's our Bondo ape. And look at the size compared to the humans next to it. That thing is massive. All right. So this Carl Amann had a decade-long exploration marked by significant logistical efforts. So basically what they're saying is this dude put in lots of time and lots of money. He built airstrips. He attracted other conservationists and researchers, including an independent primatologist. So he was able to garner enough money and scientific attention to take a look at this. That's kind of the key factor here. They encountered, so basically the primatologist Shelley Williams encountered and documented various groups of chimpanzees, including those that she identified as the mystery ape. The unique characteristics they exhibit just don't fit into the other groups of great apes. Williams told Time magazine in 2005. At the very least, we have a unique, isolated chimp culture that's unlike any that's been studied. Okay. And I want you to see what's happening here, guys. As the story of the Billy ape is unfolding, we have people that are examining it at the beginning going, this is something totally different. This does not fit the expected norm. The skull structure is different, right? The footprints are too big. And I want you to keep in mind as we go through this, and let's see what happens to what this creature really becomes. These apes were notable for their distinct physical and behavioral traits that diverge from known ape species. Specific features such as a flatter face, a straight across brow resembling that of a gorilla, early onset graying, the absence of the typical genital swelling in females, and unique nesting behaviors, with some apes nesting on the ground and others in low-hanging branches. Their vocalizations, especially the louder howls coinciding with the full moon, led Williams to hypothesize the potential discovery of a new species subspecies, or even a chimp gorilla hybrid. So they're describing these things as being unique, absolutely unique. Facial structure is different, habits are different, genetically they're coming out different. They're early graying, all these different things. And so, of course, what do we have to do? We have to have a PhD student come in. And so he brought his own insights. While Williams proposed groundbreaking theories on the apes' classification, Cleve Hicks focused on their behavioral patterns, noting the construction of ground nests and the use of unusually long tools for ant fishing, which is a known behavior. We've all seen the video of the chimps putting in sticks into the termite mounds and ant mounds and stuff. But apparently, the length of it was totally different. This marked a significant cultural divergence from known chimp behaviors. His observations suggest that genetically these apes might not constitute a new subspecies, but their unique behaviors could signify an evolutionary departure from established chimpanzee behavior. So we've gone from this thing has to be some kind of monstrous chimp gorilla hybrid that kills lions to, well, it's different, markedly different, but maybe it's like a chimp. And now this guy's going, I'm thinking it's probably just a chimp. Amon, meanwhile, the original guy was concerned the sensational claims might undermine the credibility of their work, stressing the need for robust scientific evidence over anecdotal accounts, which is what we say in cryptozoology in the Bigfoot world. Despite facing skepticism and challenges, both Williams and Hicks remained dedicated to their research. All right. After decades of research and speculation surrounding the apes, a significant breakthrough was achieved in the early 2000s when it was confirmed that these mystery primates were common chimpanzees. DNA analysis collected of samples resolved the mystery, confirming that they were simply common chimpanzees with distinct behavioral and ecological adaptations. And I got to tell you, that kind of blows my mind a little bit, because originally when they're studying this, the reason it caught their attention anyway was the fact that their skull structure was morphologically different. It was unique. It was described as a cross between a gorilla and a chimpanzee. So obviously there's something unique to how these things are built. And then the face structure, right? We said it was a flatter face, had a lower brow ridge, but that did not reflect anything genetically. And I have to question that. I have to question that result. I really do. Because the description, I can understand their behaviors being different. Isolated troops are going to behave a little differently. I get that. Not an issue there at all whatsoever. Human groups behave differently in different regions with different things they have to interact with. Not a problem. But when the morphological discussion is the fact that these things are not normal chimps, they can't be because of these attributes, and then we come down genetically and they go, you know what? No mystery here. It's just a chimp. There's literally no distinction genetically at all. And I have to question that. I don't know what questions to ask, right? But something there just doesn't sound right to me. So I'll let you guys think what you want on that one. I just don't know. This guy here is tranked out. He was one of the ones that they were using for DNA samples and stuff like that. So there's a big old monster Billy ape. Interesting to note. Again, I want to put these on there to make sure we talked about them. Physical descriptions, skull descriptions, habits all point to a different species, but DNA says it's exactly the same thing. So that makes me question, is DNA really the be all end all? I don't know. I don't know anymore because of that example. So there we go, guys. My short list of animals that were cryptids by definition,
Roger,
that have been
I was
found
just about to say that about
things.
The Planet of the Apes. But
There you go.
I was
didn't
going to
know
bite
that.
my tongue. I was going to bite it. So, yeah.
Is that the one that just came out in theaters?
I think so, yes.
Okay, no spoilers, guys. No spoilers.
So, but I wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
So there we go, guys. What do y'all think?
No.
Let me know. I mean, that's kind of, there's so many more out there that we could go over. But those are, like I said, a representative group of different continents, different types of animals, different biomes, stuff like that. Cryptozoology has a purpose.
I'm not a PhD or an MD, right? But however, that if you've got different bone structure, that usually means you got a different chromosomes and different genetics. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm
just saying because it has to have that chromosomes and DNA to alter the body.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep. That's what I'm saying.
Sounds like somebody didn't want to be called a liar or be changed their study. So I'm just throwing it out there. So
that's what I'm saying. The problem is it makes me question the veracity of everything. Okay, so what if we do end up with a Bigfoot specimen and we do DNA? We
got the DNA. It's out there on the website.
Right, but if it's going to be type specimen, you know what I mean?
It is.
Compared. It just makes me question the whole process. And that's a shame. That should never happen.
Susan F., let me tell you. So for iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, and Spotify listeners, and everybody else that's going to listen to this, Susan F. just shot across our bow. The only cryptid ever seen. Everyone laughs at me. I swear I saw a jackalope in 1981. Let me tell you something. At this age in my life, I will believe anything somebody tells me anymore. We had fairies on our last show, ladies and gentlemen, flying around a tree. And everybody thought I was crazy until we stopped and we got the video back up and stopped and played it. Yes, fairies. I'm telling you. So if she says she saw a jackalope, I ain't going to hook her up to a polygraph test. She'll probably pass it. Anyways.
Right.
Susan, I believe you, hon. But yes. Penny Van, you're always laughing at me.
Have you ever heard of the cats with wings?
You know what? There are, let me tell you something. There are things that walk upon this earth that should not exist. So, you know what? The quantum platypus or what's that, wampus cat or whatever. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. That's in Tennessee. There ain't no telling what else is walking around. So, yeah, is it plausible? Yeah, it could be. A monkey with wings? I don't want to see that either. We done had people on the show that saw gargoyles that live. I mean, I'm good enough with that. I don't want to see that either.
Look it up. Cats with wings, guys, a real documented phenomenon. Check it out. You'll be surprised at what the result was. Yeah, I'm just saying, legit thing. Actual phenomenon that happened. Check it out. Google it. Dig into it. That's your homework.
Susan says cat with wings. I can't even talk. Cats with wings would freak me out.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm good.
Ernie had a good question up there.
Yeah. What really separates a Bigfoot from other primates is that the ability to produce speech. Well, you know what do you think about the primates that know sign language? I'm just saying.
Right. I don't think it's the cognitive ability. I think it's the physical ability that Ernie's
can solve complex puzzles. Yeah. That knows muscle memory. That can. I mean, they can.
See, that's one of the crazy things, because like chimps and gorillas, they don't possess a voice box. They do not have the physical mechanism to be able to produce voice like we do.
Roger Blair,
speech.
We had people on the show that saw the wampus cat.
Yeah.
Yes, we have, from Tennessee. I know one person I put my life on. I would. I can take her down and give her a polygraph test and she'll pass it, brother. And she wasn't alone when she saw this feline, whatever you want to call it. It was petting her dog. And she had a witness. Yes. So I'm just saying, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Jessica, we had fairies on the last show. Go back and watch it at, 5:30. Yeah, very interesting. So, Care Bear, evolution to catch those birds better. I have no whatever's making these creatures can stay in the bottom pits of hell, for all I'm concerned. So, but yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show tonight. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We got 2 on the board for tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll call it for a wrap tonight. And from coast to coast, around the world. Godspeed, everybody. Catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See y'all next week.